Hello, and welcome to Urban Green, a show that spotlights South Sound environmental efforts and showcases different ways to get involved in sustainable living practices. I'm your host, Leah Michelson, and today we are coming to you from Firefighters Park. This fall edition starts with an urban learning segment that talks about the importance of securing your load when visiting the Tacoma Recovery and Transfer Center.
When driving to the Tacoma Recovery and Transfer Center to drop off solid waste, securing your load isn't just a good idea, it's necessary. It's important to remember, if it's not secured, it's considered unsecured.
An unsecured load is any load in a vehicle that's not secured or fastened in a way that prevents it from falling out of the vehicle while driving it. And that could apply even if you're driving slowly or a short distance or with not too many materials. It still is unsecured if it's not fastened to the vehicle.
Securing your load is crucial for several reasons.
There are a lot of good reasons to secure your load. First and foremost is safety. It can cause injuries and even worse when driving down a public highway and material falls out and another vehicle has to swerve or it hits the other vehicle and causes a dangerous accident. It's also important for the environment. It can cause litter when material falls out, and anything that hits the ground in Tacoma will get into our waterways and hit the Puget Sound.
And don't forget, it's the law. You can face fines or penalties for driving with an unsecured load.
There's both a state law and a city law. The state law states that you can't go on a public roadway with a load that isn't prevented from falling out of the vehicle, and that could result in fines. As well, in the Tacoma Municipal Code, there's also a law that says if you're coming to the Recovery and Transfer Center to drop off solid waste, you have to secure that waste load, and there could be a penalty for coming to our site with it unsecured.
A load is considered secured when it's covered in a manner that prevents the material from falling out while driving. Depending on the type of material, visitors to the Tacoma Recovery and Transfer Center can cover their loads with a tarp or netting and then secure it with ropes, straps, or chains.
One thing that I like to do if I'm loading up a vehicle is ask myself, if I'm driving and I have to stop quickly or if I have to turn quickly, will any material potentially spill out? And if so, that's not secured yet, so there's more I need to do. In addition to the chains and straps and tarps or nets, you can also load lighter items underneath the heavier items to help hold it in. You can make sure to drive cautiously along the way, and you can also double check that your load is secure before coming to our site.
Whether you're heading to the Tacoma Recovery and Transfer Center or driving from point A to point B with a load of items in the back of your vehicle, make sure to secure your load. It's not just about avoiding fines, it's about keeping our roads and environment safe for everyone.
To find out more about solid waste management and the Tacoma Recovery and Transfer Center, visit the city site. Up next is the Urban Tabletop segment, where we visit Tibbitts at Fern Hill for a demonstration on making salted caramel banana pancakes.
My name is Sean Tibbitts, and this is my restaurant. Welcome to Tibbitts at Fern Hill. Today we are here and I'm gonna make some food. On my menu today, that is coming out next month, is one of my salted caramel banana pancakes. I'm excited about this because it's all clean, fresh, scratch ingredients. So we're gonna get started, and yeah, glad you're here, Tacoma, and here we go. First thing I like to do is I will get my pan on low, so my pan's already hot. I've got 2 tablespoons of oil right there. We're gonna add that. Right here is my flour. Now you can use gluten-free flour, already pre-made if you have a gluten allergy. So that's flour. This is 3.5 tablespoons of baking powder. That is a 1/2 tablespoon of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of salt. And we've got 1 tablespoon of sugar. Once that's added in, we'll come over here. And a lot of people add other stuff, water, eggs, stuff like that, but we have so many allergies in the world. I just like to keep it safe and knowing that the only allergy somebody's gonna have would be gluten in this. So what we're gonna do, and that was exactly 1.5 cups water. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna mix this up. And we're gonna try to get all the lumps out. And as we're mixing, I like to sing songs in my head. All right. So this is basically the mix you're looking for, and these are all local ingredients you can buy at the store. One thing I like to do is over oil my pan, so that's why I put 2 tablespoons in, and then I'll bring whatever residual back and I'll put it back in there because you don't want too much oil. One thing about my restaurant and my food is that I don't use a lot of oil, I don't cook with a lot of grease, but my food does make grease once it's cooked. So there's a big difference to add grease to food that already has grease. So now what we're doing is we're just adding our pancake batter to our saute pan. We'll just let that cook a little bit. In the meanwhile, we'll start getting our finishing components ready. So we'll just let that cook down a little bit. As you can see, it's starting to bubble a little bit. You want to give it a little shake, make sure that it breaks up on the sides because you don't want a pan that's going to stick. If your pan does stick, just add a little bit of oil to the sides and that should break it apart. This is a regular banana I got at the store. If it comes with a bruise, I'm sorry, but this one did not, so we've gotten lucky. See that? Once that's done, we'll go ahead and cut our banana. That's just one regular banana. You can get organics, all that stuff, but we'll add our banana. And then I'm also gonna add a little bit of this 100% pure cocoa. And you wanna sprinkle it evenly. You just don't wanna get a big clump that pops out. So if you got it in a shaker or something like that, go ahead and do that. That always works. So once we're at that point, you can see it start to get really bubbly. So now we are gonna start setting up for our display. So once this hits this point right here, you just want to take that little spatula you have and just peel it back and see that if it's browning or not. You can tell when it's browning on the edges. That's when you pretty much want to pull it, pop it in your oven. Make sure your oven's already preheated at 350. After you put it in the oven, you're gonna cook it for about 8 to 9 minutes or until the middle is fully cooked. But you're gonna get a lot of height on this because of the baking powder and the baking soda. So it'll still rise a little bit. But yeah, this is one of my creations here. So at this point, we are at where we need to be for that. So I'm just gonna pop this in the oven real quick. So this one I already had pre-made, so that is 8 minutes, what it looks like. So on this one, so now once you're at this point, so we can see the pancake, we can see it fully cooked. Yeah, it's not dark on this side, which is fine because you still want it to not be overcooked, where a lot of times if you cook one side too long and the other side too long, it's just dry. So this is not a dry pancake. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and add our mascarpone cheese, and this is 8 ounces. Now mascarpone cheese is the same cheese that they put into tiramisu. So it's a sweet cheese. So it actually has a really good flavor profile when you put this together with a pancake. So now we're just gonna cut it in half. Keep in mind that this pancake will be hot once you take it out of the oven, and you will get cheese all over your glove, but that's the fun part. Mama always said, don't play with your food. I always play with mine. So we'll fold that, and then we'll just give it a cut with the same knife. And if the mascarpone falls out, that's okay, because we're gonna put it back in. So we're just gonna cut it, and then we just put it back in. That way we have it all in there. And we'll stack one wedge. We'll get the other wedge. And we're just gonna stack it a little high. Then what you wanna do is take your knife and put it through the center and just have a good balance so it doesn't move. This over. Wipe the knife a little bit because I got cheese all over it. So now what we'll do is we'll add our syrup. That should stay right there. Then we'll get our whipped cream. And then I use non-dairy whipped cream because that way if somebody has a dairy allergy, I cannot put the mascarpone in there. So a lot of people don't want it with the mascarpone, and then we'll just whisk around it with the whipped cream. A little on top. We'll drizzle chocolate, salted caramel, pull that knife out one more time. We'll put the banana in. Sure, at this point, we'll take a little bit of this cocoa and also my powdered sugar. And this is my salted caramel banana pancakes. My name is Sean Tibbitts. You're in my Fern Hill hood. Thank you.
To find out more about Tibbitts at Fern Hill and to experience their locally sourced ingredients, zero waste, and community-based location, visit their website. After the break, we'll visit Remakery Tacoma to learn about reducing waste while encouraging a circular economy. But first, the Urban Quick Tip will share a recipe for a natural glass cleaner. Welcome back. Now, we will dive in with Remakery Tacoma and learn about their mission to provide the residents of Tacoma access to education, tools, and resources on the remaking, repair, and reuse of post-consumer materials and waste.
Awesome. There's assortment of stuff inside. Somebody is going to love it. Thank you so much for bringing it. I'm going to stand in line for you so that you can go about and do what you want.
Remakery is a creative reuse nonprofit in Tacoma, dedicated to empowering our community through resources, education, and tools for remaking, reusing, and repairing existing materials to encourage a circular economy.
There's a lot of stuff out there already, and we hope to redistribute from people who don't need or want it anymore to people who do need or want it. It saves money, it's great for the environment, not creating new stuff, and it also helps lower barriers.
Pop-up events are at the heart of what Remakery does. They're free, open to everyone, and packed with opportunities to craft and create. From sewing and fiber arts to paper crafts, there's something for everyone to enjoy.
Today we're doing a free craft swap where people can bring craft supplies that they don't want anymore, and other people can take them away for free. It's been very popular. People love to craft. We do multiple events every month across Tacoma. We encourage you to come down, come craft, join us, and use our materials, use our tools, so you don't have to buy new tools.
Tacoma Creates is a voter-approved initiative aimed at enhancing access to arts, culture, heritage, and science experiences across Tacoma. As part of their funding cycle for 2024-2025, Remakery was included.
Tacoma Creates is an awesome organization that supports the arts in Tacoma, both financially and with a lot of resources. We got a grant from Tacoma Creates so that we can provide more free pop-up events.
There is more coming up this fall for fun and eco-friendly crafting.
We're making pumpkins out of yarn. We're making earrings out of melted down bottle tops that are really cute. Fiber, we're doing fiber stuff and more sewing projects. Lots of great things.
Remakery also holds mending workshops that teach essential skills to help extend the life of your clothes. It's about more than just stitching. It's about appreciating what you own.
I think crafting is very therapeutic, and so people are using it a lot to deal with the world, but also just feel better about what they're doing and making.
Join Remakery at an upcoming pop-up event or workshop and discover the joy of creating while working towards a more sustainable future.
A lot of what we work with is waste. There is a lot of clothing that people don't use, and we love to take apart those clothes and make them into patches or sew them into purses and tote bags. It helps connect with what you are buying, and instead of just throwing it away, making something useful out of it.
Visit the Remakery Tacoma website to find out more about upcoming events, view a catalog of how-to resources, or to get involved. Up next is the Urban How-To. This do-it-yourself segment features an introduction to food dehydration, especially around storing emergency supplies.
Welcome. I'm Hal Ming with the Center for Food Preservation Arts, and this is a how-to video that we're producing with the Enviro House. The Center for Food Preservation Arts, as part of our goals, is to provide information and resources for people who want to learn more about preserving their own food, so hopefully they can be better prepared for emergencies or just make their lives more convenient. So today we're going to be discussing making meals ready to eat that can be done as backpacking, or in case you have to evacuate during a big emergency, there are things you can throw in a backpack and take off. And the technique that we're going to be using is dehydrating. Because of all the canning techniques, it makes the lightest product, and to reconstitute it takes the least water and energy. So why dehydrate? Well, all molds, bacteria, yeasts need active water to be able to reproduce. When things are properly dehydrated and stored properly in a sealed container, then they will stay shelf-stable for many years. And there is a little loss of some of the nutritional value as compared to freezing, but not enough to make it something that you don't want to be doing. So how do you dehydrate? We're not going to go into big detail because the Center for Food Preservation Arts is developing a whole series of videos on our YouTube channel that go in depth to different parts of the techniques. But today I'm just going to give you an overview. There are the three main ways: the traditional solar, and then ovens, and then dehydrators. Well, in most of the country, especially around up here, you can't rely on the sun enough. So we'll set that one aside. Ovens, you want to, in any dehydrating, you want to keep the temperature below 175. Because with almost all produce, if you go above 175, you start cooking it. And that's a different product than dehydrating. Freeze drying is a form of dehydration. But for home use, although they do have some home freeze-dry units, they're incredibly expensive, and most of us don't want to get into that at this point. When you're looking for dehydrators, there's really two basic types. There's the older type where the heat and the air comes either from the bottom up or from the top down. And then ones where the heat comes from the back as well as the airflow. The pros and cons, these are usually less expensive. However, because wherever the heat source is, top or bottom, that is going to be dehydrating faster than the trays that are away from it. So you have to be constantly rotating the trays. With these, and I prefer this model, the Excalibur, and it's a little costly, it's over $200, but they are real workhorses. I've had this one and I don't get any kickbacks from them. I've had this one for almost 7 years and use it weekly at a minimum. So the heat and the air come from the back and they flow forward over the trays. And like all of them have some kind of removable mesh. And then if you were going to be making things like fruit roll-ups or vegetable leathers, they have like Teflon sheets that fit over the top. So all of these need to have a temperature control, and these go anywhere from 95 to just over 155, and it also lays out suggestions for different temperatures to do things at. And this one has a 24-hour timer. Now, we don't run into too many things that require that much time, but it's good to know that you can set it for that. It's suggested you probably don't want to leave it for long periods of time, but certainly, you know, you don't have to sit up and watch it overnight like you would with a pressure canner. So where do you get the produce and things that you dehydrate? Well, there are some things where it is a complicated process because of the oils and proteins that are involved in it. So things like eggs and dairy, they suggest you buy it commercially. Now this is a little more expensive than just going down and buying a dozen eggs, but this is equal to about, I think when I figured it out, it was about 120 eggs in a package. And once you open it, you want to put it in an airtight container and refrigerate it. Then things like meats, usually you can buy them in all different kinds of flavors and in individual packets, and that's the way I go for emergency meals. Now for home dehydration, I have an ideal situation where I have a garden just right out my back door. And just for example, today I picked about 3 pounds of green string beans, which I blanched and froze part of, but I'm also dehydrating part of them. Because you can put things together in individual bulk, like this is slices, potato slices from potatoes that I just grew that have been dehydrated, and they're not like potato chips, they're far more crispy than that, but they make a great potato au gratin. You can also take and grate them up, and you can dehydrate them for hash browns. But then when you have accumulated bulk of a number of these different products, you can put them together. Like for example, this is a mixed bean and leek, what I call a base. And this is what a lot of the meals that we put together can come from. So when you're packaging meals, you can put them into, now I have vacuum packed this, but you don't have to have a food saver. You can just use Ziploc baggies. And I usually, what I do is put it in a Ziploc baggie and then vacuum pack it. Now that might seem like overkill, but it's going to be keeping it safe and crispy for, a good number of years. Then you can also take and put them all together in a packaged meal. So this is an example of a lunch. And we're going to be making some of the not to eat, but putting together the bean, vegetable, and noodle main course that's in here, which is basically the same thing that's here. And then there's the pulled pork in there. And then also for a snack, there's some almonds. And you could also throw in for a meal something like some dried fruit or some like trail mix, things like that. Then when you have all these individual meal packets, and this could be just in a large baggie, you can get, for organizational purposes, one of these 2-gallon and put 3 meals plus snacks in it, and it's ready to go.
These how-tos were created in partnership with the EnviroHouse Free Workshop Series, designed to support healthy, sustainable homes and gardens. For a listing of workshops, visit the city's site. Thank you for joining me for this edition of Urban Green. I'm Leah Michelson, leaving you with more ways to engage in sustainable living practices that are right for your lifestyle.